Okay, this is not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 90. The 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants. Going to try to get it done in 98 days. That's probably not going to happen. However, I am going to get it done before the beginning of the season, which starts on September 10th against those Dallas Cowboys. And we forge ahead. We're at the 2009 season, which just happened to be the 85th season in the history of the New York Giants. 85th season for the history of the Giants. 90th season for the history of the NFL. The NFL started in 1920. Giants started in 1925. The Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL is. Plain and simple. There you go. This was started off very well. I mean, they won the Super Bowl in 2007. Duh, right? 2008, I mean, they were 11-1, 1 point. I mean, they were the best team in the NFL after 12 games, 11-1. And, Plexico accidentally shot himself in the leg. Then basically the wheels fell off after that, and the Giants made it. They won the division, number 1 seed in 2008. Obviously made it to the playoffs, lost in the first round of the playoff. Their offense just kind of disappeared after Plexico accidentally shot himself in his leg. 2009 started off very good. It looked like it was just a continuation from 2007, 2008, when we were 11-1. Started off really well. And then it seemed like, the Giants had their offensive line. Because once again, we had McKenzie, right? We had Snee, we had O'Hara, we had Deal, we had Seibert. We had the quarterback. We had the 2 running backs. We did lose Derek Ward to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after the 2008 season, but we still had Jacobs and Bradshaw, right? So we had somebody who could run you over, and we can say it's the Bradshaw who could run away from you. We had drafted Mario Manningham in 2008. We also drafted Steve Smith. Amani Toomer, I believe he was not on the team this season. I think it said he went to the. I think he went to the Chiefs. It said so. A long time. Statistical wise, best receiver the Giants ever had. Yeah, in 2009, said he went to the Chiefs. A report that I saw, but he never made it. His career was over after 2000. He played all of his games basically were with the Giants. He played 190 games with the Giants. Very successful. He had 668 career receptions. He had 9,497. So he was 503 receiving yards shy of 10,000 receiving yards. I had 54 touchdowns. So I mean, he played for like 13 seasons. He had a heck of a career, but we lost him. Okay. But I mean, the Giants, it was kind of apparent after Plexico accidentally shot himself, that the Giants were going to need, a weapon because, and as after 2008, Plexico never played for the Giants ever again, and we lost Amani Toomer. So our 2 top wide receivers we lost. So we were going to need to replace them. And we said we had the offensive line, we had the quarterback, we had the running backs. We're good to go there. But we were going to start needing to, on the outside. We were going to need some weapons on the outside. As I said, so we drafted Steve Smith a couple of years prior. We had Mario Manningham. So we were going to get Victor Cruz in 2010, right? But we still needed another piece to the puzzle, and we drafted Hakeem Nicks. Great, very, very good pick. I'm going to go over his stats and his games and stuff like that and all. when we go over the players the Giants drafted. But he didn't see. He played in a lot of games, but he didn't start much. He only had, I believe it was like 40 some odd receptions for the season. I believe he played in 14 games, but he only started in 6. So he really didn't enter the starting lineup right away. However, he would become quite a weapon for the time being, because then unfortunately for him, as with Mario Manningham, Steve Smith, Hakeem Nicks, Victor Cruz, all of our good wide receivers would just get hurt and their careers would be shortened. And Hakeem Nicks would go in that category as well, too. But, we started adding some pieces to the puzzle on the outside. So we had Steve Smith, but he was only going to be here for another year or so, whatever, because he got hurt. But we had Mario Manningham for the time being. We had Steve Smith, who this year set a Giants record for receptions. We had Hakeem Nicks, and of course, in 2010 we would get Victor Cruz. So then we'd be all ready, for offense to make obviously another Super Bowl run. The Giants started off 5-0, and then basically honestly, I don't remember exactly what happened, but the defense was just absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. 3 out of the final 4 games, they gave up over 40 points. It was just absolutely horrible. The Giants averaged 25 points a game, which was 8th out of 32 teams. Very good. The problem was they gave up 26.7 points per game, which was 30th out of 32. And now you got once again, the theory of relativity. Everything's all relative. When your defense, our offense was very good. But however, when your defense is on the field so much, just giving up chunks of yards and points and all that, where's your offense? On the sideline drinking Kool-Aid. If your offense is on the sideline drinking Kool-Aid, how many points can your offense score while it's on the sideline drinking Kool-Aid? None, because your defense is on the field because they can't stop anybody. If their defense, obviously, you don't got to be rocket scientists to figure this out. If your defense is better, stopping the opponent, now your offense is on the field more. Now, since your offense is on the field more, they're going to score more because they're on the field more. But, it's just they scored 25 points a game, and, the defense was horrible. So basically they had to try to outscore their opponents. So, but they started off 5-0. I think they lost their next 4 games. Then after that, they won 1, lost 1, won 1, lost 1. And then they lost their final 2 games of the season. They wound up 8-8. They were in 3rd place in the NFC East, and they missed the playoffs. They were 8-6 after 14 games. So they still had a shot. I mean, let's see here. Let's take a little peekaboo here, because I forgot. It's been quite a few years. Let's see. 8-8. Well, I guess they would have had a hard time because the 2 wild card teams, the Green Bay Packers were 11-5, and the Philadelphia Eagles were 11-5. Those were the 2 wild card teams. So the Giants, at 8-6, they still believe, I guess, they had a shot. Because the Eagles faltered, or if the Packers faltered or something like that. Maybe the Giants won their final 2 games. Let's see, the Giants' final 2 games. One was against Minnesota. Who was the other one against there? Carolina and Minnesota. Okay, so let's see. Carolina was 8-8. They were not a winning team. They were 8-8. And Minnesota was 12-4. Minnesota was very, very good. But you play the games. If the Giants could have won the final 2 games, they would have been 10-6. Maybe they would have been good. It wouldn't have been good this year to make the playoffs, but But the defense, just the wheels just fell off. They were absolutely horrible, giving up tons of points, a lot of points. So let's start the season. How did the preseason go? Not too good. They started the preseason off on August 17th at home against those Carolina Panthers, and the Giants would win 24-17. Okay, then the Giants would lose their next 3 games. On August 22nd, away at Soldier Field against the Chicago Bears, the Giants would lose 17-3. The following week, on August 29th, they were the home team against the Jets. They would lose 27-25. They would lose to the Jets preseason like they did last night, preseason. Then the final preseason game, which they, back then, it's, that the 3rd game of the season was against the Jets. The 4th game of the season was always against the Patriots. So just, right on schedule here. The 4th and final preseason game on Thursday, September 3rd, the Giants played away against New England Patriots at Gillette Stadium, and they would lose 38-27. So they were 1-3 in preseason. But once again, it's just preseason. Okay, it's not the end of the world. What does Wikipedia have to say about the New York Football Giants here? All right, the 2009 New York Giants season was the 85th season for the team in the National Football League. It was the team's final season in Giants Stadium. In 2010, the Giants moved into New Meadowlands Stadium, or I guess right now, MetLife Stadium, right? The Giants hope to improve upon their 12-4 record, avenge their divisional round loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, and make the playoffs for the 5th straight season. Now, they had made the playoffs 4 straight seasons, 2005, 6, 7, and 8, which was a franchise record. Previously, they had been to the playoffs 3 straight times, 3 straight years, 3 times, 33, 34, 35, 33. They lost to the Bears in the championship game. 34, they beat the Bears in the championship game. 35, they lost to the Detroit Lions 26-7 in the championship game. So under Steve Owen, the coach, 33, 34, 35, they went to the playoffs 3 straight years. Then came the Allie Sherman, 61, 62, 63. They went to the playoffs. 61, they lost 37-0 to the Packers in Green Bay. 1962, they lost 16-7 at home against Yankee Stadium to the Packers, who some historical people, seem to think that would rank the 1962 Green Bay Packers as the greatest team of all time. So the Giants did not lose to a bad team. Right? But then in 1963, they lost the championship game to the Chicago Bears in Wrigley Field, 14-10. So that was the Allie Sherman. He took the Giants beat the Rams 16-13. Then they would lose to the 49ers in the divisional round 21-10. 1985 in the wild card, they beat the 49ers 17-3, but then they would lose in the divisional round to the Chicago Bears 21-0. So it was 84, 85, 86. Of course, we know they won the Super Bowl. So that was the 33 times prior that they went to the playoffs 3 straight years. Well, when Tom Coughlin took over, 2005, 6, 7, 8, they made the playoffs. And once again, here, they didn't make the playoffs. They were 8-8. They didn't have a losing season. They didn't have a winning season, but they didn't have a losing season. It was just their offense was scoring some points. They had to start doing something with the defense. Right. Despite starting 5-0 to begin the season, they went 3-8 in their next 11 games and finished 3rd in the NFC East. They were eliminated from playoff contention for the first time since 2004 in Week 16 after the Packers and Cowboys both won. They played teams from the NFC South and the AFC West as per the schedule rotation, as well as their regular games with their NFC East rivals. For head coach Tom Coughlin, this was his 6th season as the coach of the Giants. The season also saw the Giants play on Thanksgiving for the first time since 1992, when they get demolished by the Cowboys. They lost to the Denver Broncos 26-6. So it was an up and down. So he started off really good, and then they lost a bunch of games, and then they just like win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And the last game, the last 2 games, they lost both of them. But their defense was just like, whew, not very good. All right, so let's go over. There we are, the draftees for the New York Giants. So with the Giants' first pick, they wanted to take Hakeem Nicks. Fantastic, fantastic pick. Jerry Reese did very good. Of course, you have no idea. Guys are going to get injured and this, that, and the other thing, and their career is going to get cut short due to injuries, but that would what happened to Hakeem Nicks. But in his season, where are we? Here we go. I mean, he started in week 8 against Philadelphia. He started in week 12 on Thanksgiving against the Broncos. And then the final 4 games of the season, weeks 14, 15, 16, and 17. He would start against the Eagles. He would start at Washington. He would start at home against Carolina, the final 2 games of the season. And then we finish the final game of the season at Minnesota. He started as well, too. Those 6 games he started. The other 8 games he did not start in. The week 1 against Washington, he played 9 plays at wide receiver. Then he missed the first. I guess it looks like he missed at least 1 game, and then he picked back up. Well, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, yeah. So he missed the next couple of games. He missed weeks 2 and 3. I'm not sure why. Maybe a little nicked up, little injury or something. But he came back week 4 against Kansas City. He only played in 27 snaps. So he just played. He wasn't a starter. Week 5 against the Raiders, he played in 30 snaps. He wasn't the starter. Week 6 again at New Orleans, he played in 25 snaps. He wasn't the starter. Week 7 against Arizona, he played in 36 snaps. Wasn't the starter. Week 9 against San Diego, he played in 25 snaps. Week 11 against the Falcons, he played in only 36 snaps. And week 13 against the Cowboys, he played 28 snaps. He wasn't the starter. He played, but he was not the starter. So, but, obviously as time would wore on, obviously he would become, better and better. And, he would start playing in and, obviously participating, So in 2009, he only played in 519 snaps. 2010, he played in 772. The Super Bowl season, he played in 1,229 snaps. So his snaps would start going up, but then unfortunately, after the Super Bowl, he would start getting injured, nicked up, and his career would be over with by 2015, sadly, due to injuries. But it just show you is that he was not. He played in 14 of the 16 games, but he was not the starter. So as I said, that time would come, where he would be. But all right, so let's see here. So and the Giants had some little wheelings and dealings here. The second round, they wound up with 2 picks. Let's see here. And they traded Jeremy Shockey to the Saints, but they traded him the year before, but they got a 2000. So basically, it was a 2009 conditional pick that they got for Shockey. So they traded him, and it was conditioned based on certain conditions. Let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, here we go. The 2009 conditional round pick. It was, I don't even. This is a bit odd. But the Giants, they trade with Jeremy Shockey. They got a conditional pick from the Saints, and it wound up being the second round pick. And with this pick, they took Clint Sintum, which he wound up playing 2 seasons in the NFL at a linebacker. Now with him. He, 2009 and 2010 is all. 2010, he recorded a total of 13 tackles. Does it say what linebacker position? He was just a linebacker. He played in 2 seasons for the Giants. That was it. So their second round pick, he played 2 seasons, and his career was over. But Sintum tore his ACL twice and never played in 2011. So somewhere along the line, he wound up tearing his ACL, it says here in Wikipedia, twice. And he never played in 2011. In 2012, he entered training camp as on the physically and on the PUP list, right? And was eventually waived on August 16th, 2012. So I guess after he tore his ACL, whatever happened, he was never able to play football ever again. After failing, he was waived on August 16th, 2012 during training camp after failing a team physical. On May 6, 2013, he announced his retirement. So I guess I don't know exactly for sure. He tore it, and he just was never able to come back from them. I guess, everybody's different. But it was a shame. I mean, because, as it was nowadays, guys tearing their ACLs and they're coming back 9 months later. So obviously this was almost 15 years ago. Things were a little bit different back then, but he said he tore twice, his ACL twice, and he never played in 2011. So I guess maybe it really held him back, really inhibited his performance, I guess. But unfortunately, their second round pick played a grand total of, let's see, how many? I don't even know how many games did he play. It's the same. Their second round pick. You get a second round pick. He played in 24 games. He started one game for the Giants in 2010. So you get a second round pick, and he only starts one game for you, and he plays only 2 seasons. That's a tough pill to swallow right there. Tough pill to swallow. But so the Giants, I would say, then the Giants also got in the second round. They had their own pick. So they got the pick from the Saints for Jeremy Shockey, but then they had their own pick, which they wound up taking Will Beatty, who wound up playing, let's see, he had a nice career. Very, very nice career. He was not, a second round pick, a tackle in the second round, but he was the Giants. He played in their Super Bowl season. He played and started in 10 games. 2012, he started 15 games. 2013, 16 games. 2014, 16 games. So so he had, he had a nice lengthy career. He finished up his career in 2017. He played one game for the Eagles. So okay, not a super phenomenal pick, but certainly the Giants could have done worse. He was their starting left tackle for 4 straight seasons. So, okay. Once again, the Giants could have done worse. Certainly could have done worse than Will Beatty. All right, the third round, the Giants had 2 picks. All right, let's see why that. I think one of them might have been let's see here. Let's see. Okay, they wound up they had a trade with the Eagles. And the Giants wound up getting a compensatory pick. So the Giants, looks like the Giants jumped up and actually traded with the Eagles, which is something that doesn't usually wind up happening a ton, because why are we going to let somebody in our own division jump up and maybe grab somebody that's going to make them better against us? But so the Giants, wound up swapping picks with the Eagles. They also, let's see here. They traded their 5th round pick to the Eagles. So the Giants jumped up from spot 27 to number 21 in the 3rd round when they traded with the Eagles. So the Giants traded their 3rd round pick and their 5th round pick to the Eagles. All right, so for the Eagles selection, and the Giants wound up grabbing Ramses Barden. He played 4 seasons in the NFL. It was not a good pick. It was not a good pick. Jerry Reese had a couple good picks, a good pick or so, But a lot of his later round picks and all, it's just some of them were just not good. And this is unfortunately, as time wore on, the coverage just started getting bare because a lot of his later round pick was just not good. This was another one of them. Let's see. So they jumped up, traded away 2 picks for Azeez Barden in the 3rd round. He played 4 seasons. He started 1 game for the New York Giants. What did he have? He had a grand total of 29 career receptions. You jumped up, traded away 2 picks in the 3rd round. I mean, nowadays you do that, and the guy starts 1 game for you and has a grand total of 29 receptions. That is a freaking bust, right? So it was a horrible, horrible pick. Much less, I said, also because they traded up to get the guy. Absolutely horrible pick. Then the Giants wound up taking, they had a compensatory pick for the loss of free agents Kavika Mitchell, Reggie Torbor, and Jabrill Wilson. The Giants lost some good players. But you also notice, right, they lost Kavika Mitchell, Reggie Torbor, and Jabrill Wilson, who were all defensive players. Right? McQuarters and Madison were no longer on the team. So the Giants, were losing some players. So that's another one of the reasons why their defense really started struggling. But the 3rd round compensatory pick, the New York Giants took Travis Beckham. All right. Travis Beckham wound up playing 4 seasons in the NFL. And there's just, once again, you take another player, he played 4 seasons. He started in 4 games for the New York Giants. He played in 48, but I'm believing probably somewhat more along the lines of maybe a special teamer. He had a grand total of 26 receptions for the Giants. 3rd round selection. He starts 4 games for you, and he has a grand total of 26 receptions in the NFL. Once again, freaking bust. Absolutely horrible pick for the New York Giants. This is where Jerry Reese was just, striking out. Clint Sintum, Azeez Barden, Travis Beckham, just horrible, horrible picks. In the 4th round, the Giants would select Andre Brown, a running back from North Carolina State. Just once again, another strikeout here. He played. Looks like he didn't even play for the Giants in 2009. I'm not exactly sure what happened. 2010, he played with the Colts and the Broncos, and then he came back and played his final 2 seasons with the Giants in 2012 and 2013, and then he was out of the league. So they took a running back, right, in what was it, the 4th round, I said? Yes, the 4th round pick. 129th overall, 4th round running back. Nowadays, you take a running back in the 4th round, you expect some production from the guy. But then again, this is 15 years ago. But he started in 10 career games. A 4th round pick, he started in 10 career games. After 2013, his career was over. I said, I don't know. I don't remember if it was from injuries or what, but he played 4 seasons. Once again, he only played 2 seasons actually with the Giants. So not a good pick. Once again, another one of the reasons I said why the coverage started getting bare. Then in the 5th round, the Giants took Rhett Bomar, a quarterback from Sam Houston State. Never made it in the NFL. Round 6, the Giants took DeAndre White, a defensive back from New Mexico. Never made it in the NFL. Round 7, Stoney Woodson, a defensive back from South Carolina. Do the same thing. Never made it in the NFL. So, I mean, this draft was not good at all. We had between Nix and Beatty, okay, but I mean, the others were just not good picks at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, with 9 picks. They had 2 that really had some nice careers. Not good draft at all. I mean, look at what Shane is doing nowadays with his 6th, 5th, and 6th. And we got Eric Gray, Trey Hawkins, the 3rd, our 6th round pick, Jordan Riley, for crying out loud, a 7th round pick. And then Javarius Owens, who's probably going to make the team, a 7th round pick. I mean, look at the guys that Shane's drafting right now and those later round picks. And then here, our 5th round pick, our 6th round pick, and our 7th round pick never even made it in the NFL, period. Not even with the Giants, but any other team. Yeah. I mean, just to go to just show you how, different things are like nowadays as compared to where they were back then. But this was not a good draft at all for Jerry Reese. Not good at all. All right. So let's go over. Let's say, I mean, the Giants, offensive wise, they were very good. I mean, Eli, I think it was a career high, or up to this point in time, a career high. He completed 62.3% of his passes. He had over 4,000 yards throwing the ball, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. So he had a very good year. Brandon Jacobs had 835 yards. Ahmad Bradshaw had 778 yards rushing. The Giants receiving, as I said, I mean, Hakeem Nicks, who played in a lot of games but didn't start in many, he had 47 receptions. Kevin Boss had 42, but Steve Smith, this was his year. This was his year. He had 107 receptions. That's a Giants record. He had 1,220 yards receiving. Had a fantastic season. Mario Manningham had 57 receptions. Yeah, and then we had Dominic Hickson, Travis Beckham, Derek Hagan, Darcy Johnson, Madison Hedgecock, Ramses Barden had 1 reception. But, you go to Sonoris Moss, another horrible draft pick. He had 1 reception. I mean, and Bear Pasco, remember him, right? He had 1 reception. But so we had, and then once we added Cruz in, right? We have all receivers. We had the running backs. We had the offensive line. We had the quarterback. So we to make that Super Bowl run in 2011, we were just like 1 or so pieces away, because Steve Smith would get hurt, and he wouldn't make it. With the Giants for the Super Bowl run in 2011, but we wound up with Victor Cruz. We lost Smith, but we got Cruz. Good trade, or good trade-off, shall I say? But so the offense was very, very good. We had Lawrence Tynes. He kicked 27 out of 32, 84.4% field goal percentage. Very solid. 45 out of 45 on extra points. Very solid. Good old Jeff Fiegels, solid as a rock, 40.7%. He only had 2 touchbacks all season long. He kicked 23 balls inside the 20. Just phenomenal punter for the New York Giants. What do we have here? Yeah, see, we only gave up 32 sacks all season, which is 2 sacks a game. Nothing super horrible, but the defense only had 32 sacks total the whole season. On defense. So nothing, as I said, the Giants, their offense, they scored 25.1 points per game, which was 8th best in the NFL, but they gave up 26.7 points per game. Absolutely horrible. I mentioned that the final 3 out of the final 4 games, they gave up over 40 points. So let's go, right? Let's go game by game here. Right? As I said, they started off really good, and it was just almost like, all right, baby, here we go. 2007, we win the Super Bowl. 2008, we start 11-1. Well, actually, we started 10-1. Plexico accidentally shot himself in his leg. We won the following week against the Redskins to go 11-1. Then the wheels fell off, but we were still. 2007, we won the Super Bowl. 2008, we started 11-1. This year, we started off 5-0. It's like, okay, but no, it wasn't meant to be. Week 1 against the Washington Redskins, the Giants would win a tough one at home, 23-17. So now they're 1-0. The Giants would go on the road, and this was the first game in New Jerry World. And why? Well, because my son and I were there. This is the first game ever in the new Cowboy Stadium. There was 105 or 100, over 105 or 106,000. I got a picture of it. I took a picture of it. It was a record. I think still at the time. At the time, it was an NFL record in the United States for people to attend a football game. It was over 105 or 106,000 people. They had a lot of people in that place. But the Cowboys were winning 31-30. And let's see how far was the field goal. So 31-30. Giants got the ball back. It was a very exciting game. Very exciting game. The Cowboys with Felix Jones. He had a 7-yard touchdown run for the Cowboys with 3 minutes and 40 seconds left to go in the game. The Giants were up 30-24. I mean, it was back and forth, just a lot of scoring. Either team could have won the game, period. But this was the first game for the Giants and the Cowboys in the new Cowboys Stadium. So with 3:40 left to go in the game, the Cowboys went up 31-30. Then Mr. Reliable, the man, the sheriff, Eli Manning, just took over, methodically moved them down the field. And as time expired, the final play of the game, Lawrence Tyne came in and calmly and coolly kicked a 37-yard field goal. It was good. And I was floating out of that stadium, just floating out of that stadium. Felt so good. I rubbed it in my son's face and everything, because he's a Cowboy fan. I'm a Giant fan, so I rubbed it in his face. Freaking loved it. 33-31, the Giants would win. A very, very, very exciting game. I said either team could have won, without question. I think the one thing here, I'm looking at the score, the box score, the thing that hurt the Cowboys was they had won it with 4 turnovers. They had 3 interceptions and they lost a fumble. So that really, really hurt. The Giants didn't have any turnovers. Obviously, that really helped them. But that turnover margin, 4-0, really, really helped the Giants in this one. But all right, so the Giants started off 2-0. The following week they would play in Tampa Bay, and they would win 24-0. It's like, oh man, we got the offense scoring some points. We got the defense shutting people out. Here we go, baby, another Super Bowl. No. I'm jumping on the bandwagon. Here we go. Week 4, they would go on the road and play the Chiefs in Kansas City, and would win 27-16. Now they're 4-0. Then once again, I'm back on. I mean, I'm pounding my chest and all of this stuff and everything. We played the Oakland Raiders at home. We beat them 44-7, just straight up. I mean, the Raiders had 100. It just goes to show you, the Raiders had 7 first downs. And actually, in the Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay had 5 first downs the whole game against the Raiders. The Raiders had 7 first downs. The Raiders had 124 yards of offense. Tampa Bay, when we beat Tampa Bay had 86 total yards of offense, 86 for the whole game. Meanwhile, like I said, we beat the Raiders 44-7 at home. The Raiders had 7 first downs the whole game. I mean, it's like, we're the greatest team of all time. 5-0. We're beating teams 44-7. We're holding 7 first downs. The Tampa Bay Bucks to 5 first downs. Holy cow. Just give us the Super Bowl now, and we'll all just go home happy, right? The following week, somehow they gave up 7 points. It is what it's. Football week from week to week is different. As we say, the Giants started off 5-0. They went 44-7. The following week, they went to the House of Horrors. They went to the Superdome, where they would take on, the good old Drew Brees, the man who just light him up. Let's see. Let's see. How many yards did he have passing there? Drew Brees, he had 369 yards passing. He had 4 touchdowns, didn't have an interception. They had almost 500 yards. Somehow we held the Raiders to almost no yards, and then the next week we give up almost 500 yards to New Orleans. We almost shut out the Raiders one week. Then the next week we given up 48 points to the Saints. So now the Giants are 5-1. So this is where the wheels start falling off. The following week at home, we lose to the Cardinals 24-17. Now we're 5-2. The following week, once again, in Philadelphia, this is where the wheels just started. We lost one wheel against the Saints. Here we lost another wheel against the Eagles. We gave up 40 points to the Eagles. We lost 40-17. So now we're driving a vehicle with only two wheels, because we just blew one against the Saints and blew another one against the Eagles. So now the Giants are 5-3. The following week we lose a tough one. Once again, this is where Eli Manning could never beat Phillip Rivers. And at a game at home, just before the Giants bye week, they would lose 21-20 to Phillip Rivers and the San Diego Chargers. What do we got here? And with 21 seconds left to go, the Giants went ahead, were up. And this some of these games I just can't hard time talking. The Giants with 2 minutes and 7 seconds left to go. Lawrence Tyne kicked a 22-yard field goal. Of course, we got down basically at what would that be? Like the 5-yard line, and we couldn't punch it in, which cost us the game. So we kicked a 22-yard field goal to put us up 20-14. But of course, you're up by 6 points. What is that? What does that expose you to? A loss when the other team scores a touchdown. So of course, walk right down the field, and with 21 seconds left to go, Phillip Rivers, who every time he went up against Eli Manning, beat Eli Manning, right? He hit Vincent Jackson with an 18-yard touchdown pass with 21 seconds left to go. The extra point was good, and the Chargers would win 21-20. Just a straight-up gut punch. The Giants, with like 30 seconds left to go in the game, had the lead, and they just gave it up. But once again, it was their defense. All right. So then the Giants were 5-4 heading into the bye week. The Giants would win an overtime battle against the Atlanta Falcons. When they come back from the bye week, they would win 34-31 in overtime. Lawrence Tyne kicked a 36-yard field goal, but once again, the thing here, what happened here, right? The Giants gave up a touchdown reception from Matt Ryan to Tony Gonzalez with 28 seconds left to go in the game to tie the game at 31 to send it into overtime. Once again, the defense failed. The Giants gave up 2 touchdowns in the final 6 minutes of the game to the Falcons to allow them to tie the score to send it in overtime. But luckily, the offense pulled out the game, and the game winner is Lawrence Tyne kicked a 36-yard field goal with 11 minutes, 6 seconds left to go in overtime. The Giants wind up winning a close one, 30, very close and very exciting, 34-31. Then the Giants would play on Thanksgiving, and of course they got their rear ends handed to them by the Denver Broncos. I mean, they had no offense and they had no defense, and they lost 26-6. Then the following week at home, the Giants would actually do almost a straight up, Moses parting the Red Sea kind of miracle thing. The Giants actually beat the Dallas Cowboys 2 times in the same season. Miracle as it is. Yes, miracle. The Giants at home would beat the this is where they win and they lost. They lost to the San Diego Chargers and they beat the Falcons. And they lost to the Broncos, they beat the Cowboys. And they lost to the Eagles and they beat the Redskins. And they lost to the Panthers. So win, loss, you know what I mean? So they beat the Cowboys at home 31-24. And so now the Giants are 7-5. The following week against the Philadelphia Eagles, this is where they lost their third wheel. They lost 45-38 to the Eagles. So they lost their third wheel. So they gave up over 40 points 5 times in the season. So this is where they lost their third wheel, 45-38 against the Eagles. So now the Giants are 7-6. They didn't blow this game in the last minute. So that I was just trying to see did they blow it in the last minute or no? So no, that they didn't do. So all right. So after the Giants lost to the Philadelphia Eagles, they're 7-6. They still obviously have a chance, to pull things out. They got 3 games left. They can win their final 3 games, and maybe they're 10-6. They have a shot at making the playoffs. So the following week they would play in Washington against the Redskins, and they would win 45-12. Had good offense, had good defense. They're 8-6. But then here's where the final 2 games of the season, they would lose their 4th wheel on the vehicle. They would lose 41 to they lost 85-16 their final 2 games of the season. 85-16. They lost at home to the Carolina Panthers, who had a very good team. 41-9 to the Carolina Panthers. I mean, just absolutely horrible. 41-9. Let me see. Was there like pick sixes in here? And They run punts back for touchdowns or block punts for what do we got here? Nope. I mean, the Giants had 4 turnovers. We had 2 interceptions and lost 2 fumbles. So, I mean, the Giants fumbled 4 times, lost 2 of them. So what I'm thinking is a lot of those set up the Panthers. We couldn't stop their run. They ran the ball 46 times for 247 yards. I mean, we just couldn't stop their run. I mean, they had 416 yards. We had 317. They had 25 first downs. We still had 22, but somehow we wound up losing 41-9 to the Carolina Panthers to make us 8-7. But I'm just thinking that probably a lot of those turnovers the Giants had pretty much set the Carolina up probably in good, solid field position. So the final game of the season, which was meaningless because the wild card teams had much better records than the Giants. So this one was pretty much meaningless, and it wound up being out to pretty much meaningless as they got their rear ends handed to them. This is where after they lost their 4 wheels. The car was skidding off the road and it just drove straight into a telephone pole. Just erupted. This is where they gave up over 40 points for the 5th time during the season. Absolutely horrible. They lost 44-7 to the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants had 181 yards of total offense. Minnesota had 487. So basically, Minnesota had over 300 yards more offense than the Giants did. Absolutely atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Absolutely pathetic. 44-7. They lost 85-16 their final 2 games of the season. Absolutely horrible. They were 8-6. They lost their final 2 games and they wound up 8-8. And of course, obviously missing the playoffs. So let's see. So now this is. What does Wikipedia have to say about the 2009 New York Football Giants? Let's see here. Yeah, they said because there were a lot of good teams in the a lot of really, really good teams in the NFC. That's why at 10-6, they were still like 3 games out of the wild card spot. So 2009 NFL season was the 90th season in the history of the National Football League, the 50th anniversary of the original 8 charter members of the American Football League was celebrated during the season. That would wind up being, who do we got? The Oilers, the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets. Actually, they started off as the Texans, but then they went into becoming the Chiefs. They're the Broncos, the Chargers, and the Raiders. Those are the original 8. The other 2 teams wound up being the Miami Dolphins, came along, I believe it was in 1967. And in 1968, the Cincinnati Bengals came. So that's why when the AFL merged with the NFL, there were 10 teams in the AFL, but the original 8 that started in 1960 actually wasn't even the Jets. It was the Titans, but it was the Jets, the Houston Oilers, right? Actually it was the Boston Patriots and the Bills. And then there was also, I said, the Raiders. There was the Broncos. There was the Chiefs, who started off as, I believe, the Dallas Texans. So then it was, the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders. So those are the other 4 teams. Let's see. Yeah. The preseason started with the Pro Football Hall of Fame game on August 9, 2009, and the regular season began September 10th with the reigning Super Bowl champion Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Tennessee Titans in overtime. The season ended with the Super Bowl, the league championship game, on February 7, 2010 at Sun Life Stadium with the New Orleans Saints defeating the Indianapolis Colts in Miami Gardens, Florida. Well, it was a very entertaining, very, very entertaining Super Bowl. We'll go over that in just a minute. The Colts and the Saints began the season 14-0 and 13-0 respectively. This was the first time in NFL history that 2 teams started 13-0 or better. Oh, yeah. Interestingly enough, and obviously, interestingly enough, the Colts and the Saints, who started off that good, surprise, surprise, those were the two teams that made it to the Super Bowl, right? So let's go to the AFC, shall we? All right. In the AFC East, New England Patriots, of course, Tom Brady, right? They won with a record of 10-6. The New York Jets were second with a record of 9-7, so they got the one wild card. In the AFC North, the Cincinnati Bengals were 10-6. The Baltimore Ravens, they were 9-7, so they got the other wild card. AFC North, the Indianapolis Colts were 14-2. And the AFC West, the San Diego Chargers were 13-3. So, in the playoffs, all right, the Jets beat Cincinnati 24-14, and the Baltimore Ravens beat Tom Brady 33-14. So, in the divisional round, the New York Jets beat San Diego 17-14, and the Colts beat the Ravens 20-3. So setting up the championship game between the Colts and the Jets, and the Colts would wind up prevailing 30-17. So sending the Colts to the Super Bowl. In the NFC, as we know, the Giants are not in there. The Cowboys won. They beat the Eagles. They were both 11-5. What do we got here? Going to show this here? Nope. Wait on. Oh. There we go. Dallas won the NFC East based on a better head-to-head sweep over Philadelphia. That's why the Cowboys, with a record of 11-5, won the East, and the Philadelphia Eagles with a record of 11-5 wind up becoming a wild card team. In the NFC North, Minnesota won with a record of 12-4, and Green Bay Packers were second. They got the other wild card with a record of 11-5. So the Eagles and the Packers both had the wild card spots. They both had records of 11-5. Very, very good seasons for both those teams. The NFC South, the Saints were 13-3, and the NFC West, the Arizona Cardinals won with a record of 10-6. So in the playoffs. All right, what happened here? The Cowboys beat the Eagles 34-14. You know, that had to be I'm sure that was some brawling going on there, because, both those teams do not like each other. And this game was unbelievable. Arizona beat Green Bay 51-45 in overtime. That game was just that was too much. That was unbelievable, that game. Was it 96 points got scored in the overtime? Whew, what an exciting game that one was. So that sent the Cardinals to the divisional round. So in the divisional round, Minnesota beat the Cowboys 34-3, and the New Orleans Saints beat the Cardinals 45-14. So setting up a championship game between Minnesota and the Saints. The Saints would win in overtime 31-28 at the Louisiana Superdome, sending the New Orleans Saints to the Super Bowl for the first time ever against the Colts. So in the Super Bowl, the Saints wound up winning 31-17, but it was very close, especially going into the fourth quarter. It was anybody's game. Anybody's game. A lot. Here we go. All right. In the first quarter, the Saints went after the first quarter, the Colts were up 10-0. The whole rest of the game, as good as their offense was with Peyton Manning, this, that, and the other thing, the whole rest of the game, after the first quarter, the Colts scored 7 points the rest of the game. The Saints defense did a phenomenal job of just shutting them down. Of course, the dagger. Oh, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry. My dog. I'm sorry, Randy. Sorry, buddy. But of course, the dagger, right, was the final score of the game, which was the interception return, which I'll go over in just a minute. But the Saints defense did a phenomenal job the rest of the way, holding Peyton Manning and those Colts to 7 points the final three quarters. Simply amazing. So in the second quarter, the Saints kicked the field goal. And then as time expired, at halftime, they kicked another field goal. And so it was 10-6 at halftime. Anybody's game, right? Not a up and down game, all kinds of points and all that, but just very entertaining game. Either team could still win. So in the third quarter, there were 3 scores. Pierre Thomas had a 16-yard touchdown reception from Drew Brees to put the Saints up 13-10. The Colts would strike back. Joseph Adai had a 4-yard touchdown run, and with the extra point, now the Colts were ahead at 17-13. The Saints would not be denied. They would kick one more field goal in the third quarter, a 47-yard field goal, to make the score 17-16 going into the fourth quarter. Anybody's ball game. With 5 minutes and 42 seconds left to go in the game, Jeremy Shockey, right? Remember him? A 2-yard touchdown reception from Drew Brees. They went for a 2-point conversion, and they got it to put them up by a full touchdown at 24-17. So with 5 minutes and 42 seconds left to go in the game, the Saints got ahead 24-17. So once again, but you're giving the ball. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. But you're giving the ball up to Peyton Manning, and anything can happen. So on the ensuing drive, Manning led the Colts into Saints territory in an attempt to tie the game. However, Tracy Porter intercepted a pass by Manning at the Saints' 26-yard line for the first takeaway of the game and returned it 74 yards for a touchdown. Following the successful extra point, the Saints' lead grew to 31-17 with just 3 minutes and 12 seconds left to go. Porter's interception return for a touchdown improved the team's record to 10-0 in the Super Bowl when returning an interception for a touchdown, although that record is now 12-1 following Super Bowl 51, when New England wound up overcoming a 28-3 deficit versus the Falcons. But let's see. Okay, and they still had a shot. Now down by 2 touchdowns, the Colts needed a touchdown on their next drive, followed by a successful onside kick. So things were, although they still had all their 3 timeouts left. Okay, but they were able to drive to New Orleans' 3-yard line. They needed 2 touchdowns, though, right? Even with their 3 timeouts, they had to have 2 touchdowns. So they got down to the 3. When an offensive pass interference penalty on 1st and goal pushed them back 10 yards. The Colts got those 10 yards back on the next play. However, the next 3 plays saw a tip pass that went off the goal post and incomplete, a loss of 2 yards on a rushing play on 3rd down, and a pass that went through the hands of wide receiver Reggie Wayne for an incomplete pass on 4th down, effectively sealing the win for the Saints. Drew Brees knelt on the ball with 44 seconds left on the clock, ending the Super Bowl and winning the Saints' first league championship in franchise history. The first major league world championship for the state of Louisiana. Huh? How about that? So it was a very, very exciting Super Bowl. Fantastic Super Bowl. Kept you kind of on the edges, even right up to the end. Either team could have won. It was the best 2 teams pretty much in the NFC, like record-wise, and in the AFC. And they actually both wound up getting to the Super Bowl. Very, very entertaining Super Bowl. Either team could have won, and you got to tip your cap to the Saints. They pulled it off. And I said that over the final 3 quarters of the game, the Colts only were able to manage 1 touchdown. So the Saints, tip your cap to them. They won it. They earned it. They deserved it. Good for them. But as I said, the Giants, that they were going to have to start doing some. They realized that maybe we got the offense here. And obviously, some unknown dude by the name of Victor Cruz was going to start popping up, and make a name for himself in 2010, right? Especially in a preseason game against the New York Jets, which just happened to be last night. The Giants played the Jets. Of course, they lost, but Mr. Victor Cruz would pop his head in and make a name for himself in 2010, and then he would just add another element to the Giants' offense, right? But the Giants had their offense. They knew, especially when they got Victor Cruz, they had their offense. They knew they can score some points. They had the running backs, the offensive line, the running backs, the E-line. They had the wide receivers. They basically had everything. They didn't have a super spectacular tight end, but the wide receivers more than made up for it. They had the offense. What they had to do is they had to find a defense, because 2009, they gave up over 40 points 5 times. So they had to find a defense. If they were ever going to make it back to the playoffs and win another Super Bowl, they were going to start needing to find some defense. So that's in 2009. 2010 would be a little bit better of a season for them. They wouldn't make the playoffs, but they would have a winning record, and they would continue their winning ways. And of course, then we know what wound up happening in 2011, right? So that pretty much wraps up the 2009 season for the New York Football Giants. 8-8, not a winning season, not a losing season. So I'll be back again tomorrow night with the 2010 and the winning season for the New York Football Giants, which just happened to be the 86th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.